Welcome, everyone, to RB1 Colon, a fantasy football podcast, part of the Fake Teams podcast channel. I am the consummate professional, the world's most frustrated Miles Sanders manager. I will draft Derrick Henry next year. I will draft Derrick Henry next year. I will draft Derrick Henry next year. And BFFs with the Oracle, your humble host, Pete Rogers. And I am joined by all of the guys. We have the Duck Father, governor and overseer of Derrick Henry Rage Manor, lead singer of Hanson, comic Chad, and the man formerly known as Steve Timberland, resident old man Clark Barnes, Scotty Miller fanboy, and about averagely frustrated Miles Sanders manager, hopeless Lamar Jackson romantic, and proud father of left tackle Quentin Nelson, the tight end whisperer Jordan Smith. He'll be joining us later. And finally, fantasy football's premier internet doctor, loather of Adam Gase, is kind of falling for Mitchell Trubisky and thinks your favorite team is run by donkeys, the Ginger Woodsman, Nick Bodiford. Guys, how we doing today?
Doing great, Pete.
Good, Pete. How are you?
I am well. Thank you.
So I want to challenge you. You're the number one Miles Sanders frustrated manager. What happened? Did you start him or did you bench him in place of Deebo Samuel and his 9 yards? Because if not, I think I might deserve that intro.
I mean, I did bench Miles Sanders and I did have Deebo, but I didn't bench Miles Sanders for Deebo. I benched Miles Sanders for Giovanni Bernard.
How many single-digit yards did I beat you?
Gio had like 2 carries for 5 yards and a fumble. It was incredible.
Okay, so this is the second time when someone has called me out and been like, I actually did have a worse start than Deebo, and one was Michael Williams, now a guy who I guess got negative points or something. Anyway, Miles, he really should have texted us or let us know that he's actually going to get a full workload. Kind of pissed that he didn't do that.
Yeah, it was the Miles Sanders breakout was not good for me. Not good for me. Jordan, on the other hand, just moved him to his what? I think he's moved him to his flex spot as punishment, and that was his So he still enjoyed the 30 whatever points.
Yeah, that's also not real pain.
No, not real pain at all. Get out of here, Jordan, with that faux pain. It's been a while since you guys have been on the show.
Speaking of lucky swings, I accidentally started Cam Akers in one of my consolation brackets, so that was awesome.
There you go. Cam Akers finally giving Clark something when it doesn't matter.
Apparently there was a game on Thursday night. Who knew?
Oh, I knew because I started Cam Newton. Cam Newton gave me negative 0.6 points, so that was fun. It was all around just an absolute shit week for me. Don't worry, we'll touch on it later.
Is Cam on the docket? No, he's not. Your rapid response. What are you hoping for at this point, Cam Newton wise, next year?
For me,
the Patriots
fan.
Yeah.
Oh, I want the Patriots to sign Cam Newton to at least a 1 year longer deal, and go get him some actual help. I have gotten into multiple Twitter battles with people who have been like, "Oh, I want to see something from Jarrett Stidham." It's like, I understand now. If the Patriots want to see something from Jarrett Stidham, fine. This season is a complete trash. Like, it's wasted. Let's just see what he's got. But it's like none of these quarterbacks are working with anything. So unless you're going to somehow Jarrett Stidham is going to somehow magically make N'Keal Harry and fucking Darius Bird or whatever. Why am I thinking of the Demir? I'm thinking of the free safety for the Saints and the Bills years ago. Darius Byard. Anyways, yes, I would like the Patriots to retain Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a good quarterback.
As much as I hate to say this, I think this year we're seeing just how good Tom Brady was at doing specifically what he was good at doing, which is putting a team on his back and kind of making lemonade out of lemons. Cam Newton is not that style of quarterback. He's got a big, long motion. He can run. He can do a lot of good things, but needs some help. And the offense that they're running is kind of seems like a novel, I'm going to try to show you that I can run a college offense in the NFL. I don't know if it's because they haven't had enough time to get adjusted to each other or because they just don't have enough people on the team. But I'd still think Cam is a good quarterback and like to see him on the Patriots again next year. If the Patriots actually realize you don't have Tom Brady anymore, you're going to need to put some pieces around your quarterback.
Yeah, I do hope this has been cathartic in that regard, Pete, because I can't imagine actually being like a real East Coaster Patriots fan, just being someone who appreciates them out here. The amount of times that like the Patriots come up and they're like, people will just say, well, we don't know actually if they were really good because of all that cheating. And it drives me out of my mind.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, give Cam Newton some actual weapons and let's see what happens. Cam Newton in advanced stats, above average quarterback. All right. Well, we got some news to talk to. We're going to play a little holiday segment. But before we get into any of that, happy birthday to Nick's mom, who Nick gave the middle finger to and went on to this podcast instead of celebrating with her. So, Nick, priorities in line. Well done.
I will tell Vicky the kind words.
All right, let's get into some news. All right, we start with the news. Matt Stafford possibly out for Week 15 with a rib injury. He suffered it this past week when the Lions took on the Packers. Lions passing game has looked a lot better since Matt Patricia got fired, with guys like Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson, and even a little bit of Danny Amendola there for you deeper leagues playing well. Obviously, Chase Daniel, because it's not plural. He's a singular Dan. Chase Daniel versus the Titans isn't great for Lions pass catchers. So if he does miss Week 15, if Matt Stafford is out Week 15, it does certainly temper your expectations. Would temper your expectations for Lions pass catchers. Am I right, Clark? Because I know you've got a lot of them.
So I've been leaning on Marvin Jones in a couple of leagues as my third wide receiver. And for the past few weeks, with Patricia, the yoke of Matt Patricia off the team, it's been fantastic. But Jones will move out of my lineup for whatever hot, let's take a chance on some Texans wide receiver that we've never heard of, or another team fires their coach and we're going to go after that unlikely wide receiver, because Marvin Jones is very good, but we've seen the backup in Detroit this year and it's not pretty.
Yeah, I think the Marvin Jones fantasy impact might be hit doubly, either from Matthew Stafford potentially missing the game, or maybe on the off chance we can wish upon a star that Kenny Golladay plays a football game and he comes back from that hip injury, and that just sucks targets away from Marvin Jones as well. Really quite a bummer, because the Lions, especially with Matt Patricia, have been feeling that dead cat bounce of losing him, and they're actually throwing the ball downfield. So
do dead cats bounce? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I wanted to get Clark's reaction to that. Something happened.
I didn't
My
know
understanding
dead
it
cats
was
bounce.
as a stock trading term.
Yes.
But yeah.
So, damn it. Okay, wait. Yeah, no, I got it. So cool dudes. Some doctors put together a really cool website, the Fantasy Doctors, and they were discussing this week.
But they didn't bring on the internet's premier fantasy football doctor, Nick. This is this is where you need to step up your branding, Nick. I just want to tell you this. As the leading expert on injuries on Twitter, Nicholas, you need to be marketing yourself as such. And whenever a site is created for this express purpose of talking about injuries, Nick, you should be the forefront on that.
I know. I've dropped the ball. I as an aside, my middle name is Hunter, after Dr. Thompson. And I've tried desperately to find a way to apply for like a $12 doctor license that he also used. But they just don't exist anymore. So I am merely a reverend. I do have certification for that. Anyway, I should approach them with that if they need some sort of reverend status on their team.
Reverend status is important.
But long story short, they were opining that Kenny Galladay's hip designation is very likely to be also defined as contract. And so I think we're kind of seeing AJ Green 2.0 here. So which, Marvin Jones is really tough this week because they're playing the Titans. And so they're, it's just this clown show of a secondary that they're running around out there. Like if Daniel just loads him up with targets, I could see it working, but there is like a bottom dropping out floor that is associated with it.
Yeah. Because we have seen it before, and it has not been pretty. Quick aside, evidently Patriots fans don't want Kenny Golladay on their team. So, because they're a bunch of fucking idiots.
It will be nice to no longer have every spicy free agent be associated with the Patriots because they're just so much smarter than everyone else. This year, I believe, has humbled New England's ownership a bit.
Oh, I think that's super. That being said, the fact that like Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Godwin,
Allen Robinson,
Kenny Galladay, like all these guys are hitting free agency this year. And of course, it's just like, what do the Patriots need? Wide receiver. Yes.
Out of all of those guys, who would y'all like to have the most? I know it's hard and a team needs matter, but
100% Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson is a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. Like it's I think Juju is a close second because I think he's the heir apparent to Julian Edelman, but like he's that perfect kind of do it all receiver. But I don't understand the Allen Robinson hate. It's the guy is doing numbers with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick fucking Foles as his quarterback.
Yeah.
I am fired up this podcast.
I don't think that there's anyone. I mean, I think he's probably the best, like most talented NFL receiver. And no shade on
Suck it,
Hopkins
Devontae
there.
Adams.
But I mean, what Allen Robinson does with you mentioned the quarterbacks, but the coaching too. I mean,
Also
Nagy
true.
and then whoever the hell they had in Jacksonville, like it's yeah. Anyway, he's amazing.
So
I think-
what, 23-year-old Juju Smith-Schuster versus 30-year-old Allen Robinson, you still think no argument. And that's okay if you do. I'm just okay.
I think Juju's a close numero dos.
Who's the worst free agent wide receiver? That's the one the Patriots are going to sign.
It's gonna absolutely crush. It's gonna crush me. All right, let's move on to the news. Gardner Minshew is now the starting quarterback for the Jaguars yet again. Mike Glennon got benched for Minshew partway through Sunday, and now Minshew is taking back the starting gig, which begs the question, Nicholas: are the Jags so bad that they're tanking their tank job?
What does that mean? They're tanking their tank. Okay, got it. I don't think it matters who they start against Baltimore. So, I mean, maybe not.
Maybe they feel like Mike Glennon is their quarterback of the future, so they're sacrificing Gardner Minshew to the wolves of Baltimore's defense.
I think that they're probably trying to just find out what they have in Minshew once and for all. They seem to shy away from him, but I think, yeah, I guess maybe they are tanking that. Which I get doing, because if you have a potential franchise quarterback, you have to find out if that's the case, right? Like they can't let Minshew go and then roll the dice on a rookie and then see Minshew go off and succeed somewhere else. Like you, as a general manager, you can't friggin' do that. But yeah, this Baltimore. I actually their defense is, I think, in my opinion, kind of so just with all the injuries they have going on. Chicago has been weird, but still really, really good. And then Indy. So, I mean, he's got like a murderer's row ahead of him, Minshew, that is. So his mettle will be tested.
I think they're just putting the better quarterback back in. Minshew is better than Glennon, and I don't think that that's really a hot take. And I think that we've seen what Minshew is going to be in his career. On the upside, he's going to be a Kirk Cousins and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which if you get a good coach in there and surround that person with talent, can be good enough. But I think we saw earlier this year that he's not quite good enough to put a team on his back and carry them all the way, which is not an insult. There's only we're lucky now. There's like 6 guys in the NFL that can do that. So I think they're just putting in the better player. I think the fantasy impact is that it's a bump for Chark and it's a bump for James Robinson to have a better quarterback in there. But Nick, I really think you hit the nail on the head. Their schedule is tough.
Yeah, I don't think coaches think in terms of tanking their seasons. Like they don't want to lose because they don't want that sort of thing on their resume if they get fired at the end of the season. Like, oh, what happened here? Not just this entire season, but this last month of the season. But if I'm a Jaguars fan, I'm talking myself into like, okay, we got to see what we got in Gardner Minshew, because the Jets don't look like they're going to accidentally win a couple games here at the end. I mean, they already almost did, but they ended up blowing that anyway.
But they did an all-out blitz, 0 coverage on a Hail Mary, which is just brilliant move, Greg Williams. Way to take one for the team.
I amend my former statements. I think Adam Gase is not above tanking as a head coach. But I think you got to play it. Maybe you just think to yourself as a Jaguars fan, like, I don't really have a chance for Trevor Lawrence. Do we know if these other guys are any better? Maybe there's a good piece that we can get to help build the infrastructure first, because they've lost a lot of talent all over that football team.
Super true. All right, moving on in the news. Deebo Samuel left the game Sunday with a possible pretty serious hamstring injury, to which I say, honestly, Kyle Shanahan, we know you listen to the podcast. Just shut him down for the year. He's too good and too important to you and fantasy managers everywhere to have him be constantly re-injuring himself. Give him plenty of time to get healthy, and then let's ride in 2021. Besides, Brandon Ayuk is doing plenty for y'all right now, and it's not like you have real playoff hopes. So I would hate just for Deebo Samuel to keep playing and play his way into some sort of nagging long-term injury. So just shut him down for the year. We'll see him in 2021.
So his statement today, I believe, Shanahan's, was that they'd have to make the playoffs for Deebo to return to the field.
Thanks for listening, Kyle.
But that's not shutting him down, right? That's he's now healthy enough to play. And man, this is gonna be my new fucking thing. I used to talk about Chow all the time. Now it's fantasy doctors. They went in depth on how Julio may have permanently damaged his hamstring.
I saw that.
And it's really interesting. I'm a complete idiot on this stuff, but it is intriguing. I hope that they shut him down, because
you're a minister, Nick. You don't undermine your ability to dissect the human body.
Amen. Kittle might be back in 16 though, in week 16.
Oh, awesome. Good.
But go Ayuk. Ayuk's going to kill it.
Yeah, Ayuk's been eaten.
I actually did just want to chime in to praise Brandon Ayuk, because the conversation the past couple of weeks has been between Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson, the two Justins for Rookie of the Year. But I'm like, Brandon Ayuk has been the number one option in San Francisco with the hodgepodge of Garoppolo and Nick Mullins, no Kittle. He's been on and off and putting up points. He's wide receiver 30. So he's been a really good target fantasy lineups to put in the flex and just give you a cool 12 to 14 points every week.
As an unnecessary. Go Pete.
Oh, I was just muttering to myself that he's been playing really well.
I just wanted to shit on Dave Damashek for a minute, because I think he's just terrible, but he does that stupid NFL thing. We can talk about it, Clark. I think there's no purpose for him in existence, and we have no issue if he was just disappeared. But
I have enjoyed many Dave Damashek bits, and if you listen to him constantly, I can understand your point of view as well.
Dave Damashek, come on to the show. Let's do this. Let's have Nick and Dave battle it out. I am so here for this.
Damn you, Damashek. So, anywho, NFL, there was that report. Silva somehow got word that the Saints wanted Ayuk at 20, and Shanahan was afterwards, he was freaking out, and sources were saying he was considering taking Ayuk instead of Kinlaw. And I know that every team says this, but it seemed as though this was from the ex quarterback, Chris Sims, who's really good friends with Shanahan. And he was the one who reported it. So I believe it. Point is, this year would look so much different if Ayuk had gone to New Orleans. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but that thought is just really intriguing. Michael Thomas, had he been out, what they would have been able to do, just inserting this after the catch beast.
He would have been pretty nice in New Orleans. Certainly would have helped the Taysom Hill experience, which hasn't been terrible, but certainly would have, maybe they would have beaten the Eagles. What you doing, Saints? Finally in the news, Ronald Jones may have fractured his pinky versus the Vikings. So the Bucs play the Falcons next week. So I guess maybe don't fire Leonard Fournette up, because the Falcons have actually been really good against the run. So just ignore this backfield.
Leonard Fournette has also been a healthy scratch the past 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on there, but it's also Leonard Fournette. So he probably did something or said something or went home on the bye and ate a ton of gumbo.
This is where you should write things down for next year. We should gather food for thought for how we feel now, because we're going to have 4 months to forget what it was like and why these things happened. And then we're just going to be looking at raw stats. But what's happened with Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield is one of the more confusing things to me. You have Ronald Jones, who, while he's never been a fast pass catcher back, he does have those types of skills, and it's never been even seemingly looked into to see if he could do it. And then you get a famous for being a straight line bruiser back in free agency and seemingly arbitrarily make him your third down back, which he like can technically do, but not
especially
really.
when you drafted a third down back.
Right. So just
Like that was Keyshawn Vaughn's whole thing, was that like
There-
he's a great pass catcher. And everyone's like, oh, they drafted Tom Brady's James White. And it's like, no, it's Leonard Fournette.
there's no sport where a coaching change or coaches have more of an influence, I think, on the fantasy game than football. So just when we're getting really excited about Tom Brady's sophomore season in Tampa Bay and what running back it's going to be, just remember how hard it was this year. Just remember.
Yep. That's why I'm like going to get draft Derrick Henry tattooed on my arm so that I just will never forget the fact that every single goddamn December, Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards a game and 3 touchdowns. It just happens every single game.
I'm going to put the double reverse chutzpah on him. I'm going to rank him 101. He'll be finished.
And it'll be finished. All right. Well, there you go. That's the news. Before we get into our main segment, let us take a quick advertisement break because we got to get that bills so that we can buy Christmas gifts. All right. We are back, and it's time for our main thing of the pod, which is perfectly themed for the holidays, thanks to the brilliance of Clark Barnes. And it is called Ho, 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 or No, No, No. As fantasy is officially a week-to-week game because 2-week playoff rounds are stupid, who you start and sit is extremely important, and capitalizing on spikes and trends is a must in order to win. So I have 6 players who we're going to gauge our confidence in for week 15 using our Santa's Ho scale. 1 ho means you have no confidence in this player. 2 hoes means you feel fine, not particularly strong either way. And all 3 hoes mean you're 100% buying in. Also, this is a time to show off your best Santa impression, so be prepared. Now, first off, I want to say congrats to all you who are listening to this who still have meaningful fantasy ahead of you. I do not, as I was bested by my wife because Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor, Mike Davis all decided that this was the week to go off. So fun for me. All right, let's start with the player on everyone's mind who we talked about at the opening of this show. With Jalen Hurts under center, we finally saw Miles Sanders go off, totaling for over 100 yards against a formidable Saints defense. So for week 15, Miles Sanders is a must start. Jordan, your confidence in that statement?
I was completely shook by the by the game and the output that Miles Sanders put out. Granted, a lot of it was on one very large run. Sometimes that's just all you need, though, to get the spark back going. And I was afraid about the Saints, but you know, with a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Hurts, that can really open things up in a way that I didn't really imagine before. Miles Sanders plays the Cardinals, and then in your potential championship week, he plays Dallas. So I am going to eat a ton of crow and swing the other way from my rhetoric last week and go ho, 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 all 3 hoes to Miles Sanders. Right? Is that super
That's right.
positive?
You did a great job, Jordan.
Scale?
You played it right. Well done. Well done. Nick, what do you think?
I question whether we should be playing this game, but
Nick, stop being Grinch.
So I am kind of grinchy. He's got a great schedule, and Hurts clearly did something for the offense, which is way more than what we can say about Wentz. The next game, so presumably semifinals, is against Arizona. Arizona has 3 of their starting defensive linemen on injured reserve, and they've got Devondre Campbell, inside linebacker, who was out last week. If I recall correctly, he was unable to practice in any of their practice days, so it wasn't even close. Good chance he's out again this week too. So, I mean, you count it. That's 4 players of their front 7 that's injured. Like, if Sanders can't get it done in that kind of a situation, don't ever trust him. And they showed us that they went back to him as their main guy. So yeah. And then after that, he gets Dallas. Like, it's really a pretty fortuitous semifinal and championship 2-game stretch here. So yeah, I will give Miles Sanders 3 hoes.
Oh,
ho, ho, ho.
Terrible Santa impression.
Yeah, for
Clark,
next year,
bring
this
it
is
home,
gonna,
baby.
For next year, this is going to be, you're going to hear it all off season. In 3 games last year, Miles Sanders was the running back 2. That's why he's my 103 right behind Derrick Henry and Derper. So for whatever reason, when coaches put in another quarterback, the opposing coach seemingly forgets what to do, and the coach that puts the new quarterback in simplifies everything so that his players can execute what they've failed to execute all year with their really complicated plays. I think that's what we saw last week, and we're going to see that for the next 2 games here. Justin Herbert getting in there, bit of a risk, rushing the football, which always helps running backs, but also just I think the Eagles coaching staff no longer trying to be the cleverest people they can be and just doing the things that their players can do is going to bode very well for Miles Sanders in the next couple weeks. Ho, ho, ho.
Ooh, all 3 hoes from Clark. I, as a Miles Sanders manager, will give it ho, ho, 2 hoes. I don't trust him, but I'm also going to start him in my consolation bracket because I have nothing to play for. All right, let's move on. Clark, this is for you. It's really painful, so be prepared. All right, here's your statement, Clark. How confident are you in this? I would rather start Mitchell Trubisky versus the Vikings this week than Deshaun Watson versus the Colts in fantasy.
No, that's no hose.
No hose. Well,
zero hose given. That is erroneous.
All right.
Why would you say? No wonder you're in the constellation bracket, Pete.
Hey, I had Deshaun Watson all season. I have him in another league. Mitchell Trubisky has now played a couple of very good games. This offense is suddenly becoming a little more revitalized. Meanwhile, the Texans are throwing to one of the Henson brothers, who the music didn't work out for him, so now he's playing wide receiver and doesn't have anyone to throw the football to. And the last time he played the Colts, he threw for 300 yards and a pick. Are we sure Deshaun Watson's going to put together a good game? Crazier things have happened. Jordan, what's your vibe? How many hoes are you giving this?
I'm giving it 3 no's. I can't imagine a situation where I have that sort of chutzpah to put Mitch Trubisky in over Deshaun Watson in any situation. Hopefully, Brandon Cooks was very close to playing this week. He just didn't, so hopefully he'll get another weapon back. And Mitch Trubisky lit up the first half on Sunday, but he didn't exactly light it up in the second half in terms of stats. Granted, that was a lot of game script possibilities, but I'm just going for Deshaun Watson's talent right now.
Yeah, I think kind of one thing we haven't really considered with Trubisky is that his decision making is so lacking that there's a chance that like he forgets to button his pants and they end up at his ankle. Like there's a non-zero chance that he. Point is,
Nick is on a tear this show. He is just bringing people down with him. Love it.
He has Allen Robinson, and against the Vikings, I'm sure that alone results in like 100 yards and a touchdown. And, that kind of a floor is really, really nice. Regarding Watson can just get it done against any defense. So I personally would not fear starting him against Indianapolis. I can see in some sort of situation, if you are like, you only need the highest score possible. Like if it's, you're playing against like Dalvin Cook and I don't know what, and Derrick Henry, I guess, I'm trying to think of reliable RB1s at this point. Yeah. And you need some insane outcome. I could see going with Trubisky because this matchup is, Minnesota is terrible. Like I can see that happening. And then again, against Jacksonville next week, there are situations, there are matrix simulations where this works out. That said, I'm going to rank Deshaun Watson probably in the top 5, and Trubisky will probably be at like at number 12, maybe 13. So I'm going to the soft no, not going to start Trubisky over Watson.
I'm marking you down, Nick, as 2 hoes because the definition of 2 hoes is you feel fine, not particularly strong either way. And okay. This way I can chalk up that we are split on the podcast, 50-50. Good marketing on my part. All right, number 3. Diontae Johnson managers shouldn't worry about his drops and benching on Sunday. He's still a rock-solid wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside week 15 versus the Bengals. Nick, your confidence level in that?
So as I recall, and I'm just double checking this now. So he got benched in the first half, and then he came back out as a starter for the second. Is that right?
That is correct. James Washington snagged a touchdown from his grasp, and then
Okay. Yeah. So it's against Cincinnati. I'd feel comfortable starting him as a flex option. Wide receiver 2, no. I think at this point, now you've seen the coaching staff discipline him. That's a big deal. And I don't personally – I'm not aware of a situation where benching has made someone stop committing mental errors. Right?
Well, when Jordan did it, it worked for Miles Sanders.
Okay, so we have one such scenario on tap. But these things typically seem to be punitive and more so as like limiting a possible bad outcome. But I'm unaware of a receiver who has been experiencing drops, and then his coach says, "I have so little faith in you. I'm putting you on the bench." And then this person finds confidence and progresses, right? Like Nelson Aguilar, he went to sports therapy, like sat down with a behavioral cognitive therapist and said, "Here's what's going on. Help me get this figured out." And to his credit, he turned his career around. Yeah. So I'm not going to start Johnson as like a locked in top 15 or top 24 option. But the matchup is too good for him. Even if he gets his normal workload for like a half, Johnson can absolutely bring back high-end flex value for you against Cincinnati.
Okay, let me see them. Let me hear them hose, Nick. We need to know your level on a scale of 1, 2, 3 hose.
I would do high confidence hoeing on high-end flex.
All right, well said.
Yeah, I think benching, Nick, you kind of nailed it. It is the coaching equivalent of rubbing your dog's nose in pee when it pisses on the carpet. Some idiot probably told you that was a good idea, but that's not really how you reinforce the behavior that you want to see. To answer the Diontae Johnson question, I mean, he's just the classic boom bust. This is why I don't do rankings, because I'd have like 15 guys that I would really like, and then 30 guys where I was like, which side would you like me to argue for you? Because Diontae Johnson could put up 120 yards and 2 touchdowns and a half, or he could have two catches for 15 yards, and no one would be surprised with either one of those matchups, with either one of those outcomes, would they?
No.
Yeah. So just a single, or I guess a hoe and a half.
Hoe and a
this
half.
one from me.
1.5 hoes for Clark.
I'm going to go 2 hoes on this. Not really strong either way. Because you can talk yourself into starting Diontae Johnson in that, they're playing the Bengals. That's an easy mark. Eric Ebron was having troubles catching the ball as well that night, and it was like snowing or like it was damp, whatever. So you could talk yourself into like
a gentle breeze.
Maybe a few drops were caused by that, just squeezing through. And he's still a good player, and Ben still likes him. Like Diontae Johnson has kind of struggled with this all year, maybe not as like prolifically and not as on a huge stage as this last game was, but Ben Roethlisberger has still gone back to him, and hopefully, Santa got him a jugs machine for Christmas, and he's just catching an extra 50 passes after practice now.
Yes. Diontae Johnson, you also listen to the podcast. Just go catch like 100 balls after every single game. I too give this ho. 1 ho. All right. Jordan, you should drop Todd Gurley.
Why? Is there a player you're picking up instead, or?
Well, we can combine the next one. There is a player that you could be picking up off waivers. Maybe the other way of saying it is just that Todd Gurley doesn't belong anywhere near your starting lineup at all anymore.
I guess it depends. He can be a flex option, but his ceiling is incredibly limited, I think. I don't think he's going to blow the doors off and carry you to a fantasy win. So I would just give it 1 ho. Hopefully I have 2 other running backs that are a stronger option, including potentially the guy who is coming up after him. I might like him a little bit better.
3, however many is the maximum amount of hoes is what you should do for Gurley. So I'm just looking up Gurley right now. Since their week 10 bye, he's the running back 74. And I understand that he missed some time. He missed, what was it, 1 game because of his bulky knee. But the knee is not getting any better. And everyone who listens to this is bored to death of me saying this. The knee is gone. It's degenerated. It's not getting any better.
He literally doesn't have a knee anymore.
That's right. It's gone. And so what we're asking here is, like, do you want someone on your roster, a running back who can't run, in a committee, and he has to play Tampa Bay and Kansas City over the next 2 weeks? Absolutely, he should be dropped for whatever kind of high-end flex is out there. And if you're in a reasonable league, the people who are playing, if it's just standard redraft season long, people who are out of the playoffs, if it's like a respectful league, they're probably not doing anything on the waiver wire, or if they are, they're picking guys up in free agency on like Friday so that the teams who are competitive can get who they need. So yeah, I can't imagine having Gurley on a roster, and more importantly, I cannot imagine a scenario where I would start him.
Yeah, you're hoping for a Hail Mary touchdown, just 8 carries, coming off of most of the season. He's been in the 15 to 20 carry mark and struggling to get into the end zone, but still being somewhat serviceable for you. I think it goes to Jordan's point of, well, who are you dropping for? Because he still may get that goal line work, but I'd probably take a shot on almost anyone over Todd Gurley. So triple hose on this one.
Ho, ho, ho. All right. So a potential guy who maybe you do replace Todd Gurley if you're going to bench or drop Todd Gurley, Jeff Wilson Jr. for the San Francisco 49ers is the top waiver target this week and should be plugged right into your starting lineup versus the Dallas Cowboys. Clark, your confidence level in that?
I feel like, didn't we do this 10 weeks ago? We've been doing this all year with San Francisco. If Jeff Wilson is going to start, then I'm in. Ho, ho, ho. Yes. Spend it all. That's it. I don't have any analysis. He's the San Francisco running back, and if he's going to play, yes, I would spend all my fab, use all of my waiver budget. Yes.
It gets 3 hoes from me as well.
So I did have to play Jeff Wilson in a league this week. Unfortunately, did not have Mixon and Antonio Gibson to go. But an ugly fumble and a dropped pass might have hurt his value in the pecking order with Raheem Mostert, because Mostert did out-touch him, even though Jeff Wilson did get the goal line work. However, they do play the Dallas Cowboys next week. So I think that's a juicy matchup for either running back. They could have their way with the Cowboys defense. So I'm going to say he has a much better week next week, and I'm going to go 3 hoes.
Yeah, I think Wilson's a good option for a pickup this week. So snap shares over the last 3 weeks, Wilson is 35%, 46%, and 48%. Mostert is 40%, 44%, and 49%. Mostert's not going to be fully healthy for the rest of the year, and so they're going to keep him on kind of a snap count, and Wilson is the obvious guy who's benefiting from that. Like Jordan just said, they're playing Dallas, so that's terrific. And I think the absence of Deebo Samuel likely increases the amount of touches that Kyle Shanahan wants to give to his running backs. That said, I think that these guys, both these guys, can hit like 80 yards and score, but I don't think that either one of them is gonna like wreck the game, kind of a thing. I don't think that you're gonna get 20 half-point PPR points out of either of these dudes, but like 13, that I think that's possible. Yeah. So 2 hoes for in favor, 1 hoe. Drop Todd Gurley for Jeff Wilson. 3 of those. 3 of those scenarios.
I feel like when I make these like games that I try to make them not complex, and yet somehow halfway through the game, we're all confused on exactly what the rating scale is or how it operates. The beauties of podcasting. All right, Nick, bring it home. Last scenario to talk about. Irv Smith Jr. for the Minnesota Vikings is the top tight end streaming option this week against the Bears.
Not for me. I don't think so. I'm double checking Bears half-point PPR points against. Oh, it's 12.7. Okay, so they're top 3. Okay, right. They can't cover tight ends. Ho ho. Irv Smith. Yeah, he's a really good one.
Two.
I don't know
Nice.
if he's going to be the top one, but yeah, it definitely. If Rudolph is out, then for sure.
Clark, what about you?
I drafted Travis Kelce everywhere when everybody told me that wasn't a value, so I don't care about this question.
Clark's answer is shrug ho. The fact that Travis Kelce is about to lead the NFL in receiving yards, I feel like, Clark, you deserve a 30-minute standing ovation for all of the emphasis that you put on Travis Kelce and drafting Travis Kelce and just like you are on the forefront of treat Travis Kelce like a wide receiver one, not a tight end one, and he belongs in the first round. So well done, sir.
Instead of the ovation, I would like to use this moment to erase my ranking of Jamal Charles as the number one running back that year he didn't play.
Perfect. It has been stricken from the minds of everyone. Jordan, what do you think?
I don't really trust the Vikings to keep using Irv Smith if Kyle Rudolph comes back and is like ready to go. They have like this weird affinity for Rudolph and just keeping him either on the roster by signing him to an extension like they did and just using him as a really key part of what they like to do. He did only play 35% of the snaps on Sunday. So that's a little bit worrisome despite the, the amount of production that you did get out of him with that limited time. I think they would be dumb not to use him more, but I don't know. I appreciate the good tight end talk we get to have on here, but I'm going with like a lukewarm two hose because I just if Kyle Rudolph is back, I think that just completely tanks his value.
That's fair.
To Jordan's point about the Vikings having this affinity for Kyle Rudolph, Clark, are you at all involved in the Minnesota Vikings front office?
Let's really get down to the reason here.
There's some things that I'm not allowed to discuss on the podcast, and I'll intimate that this is one of them.
All right, there you go. We'll let our listeners decipher what that means and figure it out for themselves. All right, before we go, everyone, because y'all failed to do it during the podcast, everyone go around and give your best Santa impression because we have to celebrate the holidays appropriately. I'll start. Ho, ho, ho! I feel like I look the most like Santa Claus. This awkward pause is staying in the podcast because fuck you guys.
I feel like I look the most like Santa Claus, and so I'm just going to stand on that.
Okay. All right. Well, Clark has a leg to stand on.
Clark does a visual.
Clark did a visual ho, ho, ho.
Yeah,
Jordan looks like he lives in a trailer.
Wow. What the fuck? That was rude. You're not getting any hose from me now.
Damn it.
You're a ho host.
This kind of stuff is so far out of my comfort zone. I
having fun. Right.
Yeah. What was the Clark? I thought of you the other day, just when Pete Carroll was like, he's talking about how they need to go back to running the football. And it's rung in my head when I was like shouting early in the year about now they pass. Now I won't give Pete Carroll any credit. And you like went off mute just to go, never will. Or you said, we'll never be happy. And then just muted again. And it's like, yeah. And then Pete was like, oh, we got to get to running again. Like he was talking about how he was watching Chris Carson run and all he could think was if he had Carlos Hyde out there running with him too, what they could. And I'm just like screaming at my phone.
This is the worst moment of Nick's existence.
That's great. So what Christmas movies have y'all watched so far this year? I'll start. Elf, The Santa Claus, and last night Die Hard 1.
Nice. Baxter and I have made a list of 25 movies that we're slowly making our way through. So we've done a fair amount on our list. Let me bring it up. We have, all right, we've seen Home Alone, Family Stone, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, both the animated and the Jim Carrey, Mixed Nuts, Elf, Muppet Christmas Carol, Happiest Season, which was good until the end, and El Camino Christmas. And then tonight we are doing Love Actually.
Oh,
it's a great
tears tonight.
So
in the Pete
good.
household.
Yeah.
My recommendation is This Christmas, which you can find on Netflix, and The Night Before, which has like Seth Rogen and Anthony Mackie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's a pretty funny movie, but I haven't watched any myself. I watched that show on Netflix, like how our favorite Christmas movies came to be, or something like that. So they talk about Elf. It's pretty good, like the history of that movie and how it came together, if not a little bit manic and a little crazy.
Got it.
Yeah, I preemptively took Jordan's advice and watched The Night Before, like a week and a half ago, and also watched Die Hard. But other than that, no. My girlfriend is very much into Christmas. I am more tempered, but I'm sure
because as we know, Nick does not enjoy fun.
All right, I'll sign off.
Classic. All right. Well, there you go. There's the show. Make sure you subscribe to the Fake Teams podcast wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. That's how you'll not only get us, but also our fantasy baseball and our fantasy basketball pod. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RB1 Podcast. You can follow myself at Peter Rogers. Follow Clark at NFL Clark, Jordan at Jordan_Smith27, and Nick at Ginger__Nick without a K. We will be back at you maybe later in the week, maybe next week. We'll let you know. But until then, peace. Jordan, I love you.
I hate you. I'm out next week.
Damn it.